Well, thank you, and good morning to all of you. It really is quite emotional, quite delightful to be here at this fantastic Action Day that has a long tradition and every year builds on the determination of all stakeholders to take on their responsibility and their opportunity. The slogan that we use here, we must, we can, and we will, is meant to represent the very powerful overlap of so many imperatives of taking action on climate. So we start with we must, because science imperative, the scientific imperative, tells us that we only have a narrow window to be able to act effectively on climate change. It is also we must, because the moral imperative is there, telling us that if we do not act, and if we do not act in a timely fashion, we will be negatively impacting certainly the most vulnerable in all geographies. So we must is a very, very clear combination of the science and the moral imperative. We can is the other overlap of imperatives, because from a technological point of view, we have a technological imperative that is growing every day. The technologies are becoming so much more accessible to us. The finance is shifting. We are able to see, and this is a celebration of Action Day, how we can take action on climate change. And we will is because we see increasing political will from national governments, from subnational governments, from corporations, from everyone, to realize that this is not just certainly an emergency that we need to address, but it is a huge opportunity. So we celebrate this very, very good overlap and mutually reinforcing impact of all of these imperatives to understand that by acting on climate change, we can do good and we can do well. And when else have we had that fantastic opportunity as humanity to actually be able to bring those two things together? So it is a fantastic celebration of the right thing to do.
That's brilliant. Janos Pasztor, we've just heard from Ms. Figueres talking about the fact that if we don't do something now, it could be too late. And this has been reiterated by Ban Ki-moon all week long. Just tell us about the number of events in the lead up to this actual summit, namely the 2014 New York Climate Conference.
Thank you. Good morning. And indeed, I'd like to share with you 5 points about the Secretary General's summit and the impact it had on this day today here. First point is that why have a summit? And the Secretary General felt that it was really necessary to provide momentum and push to the negotiations. And he felt that the best way to do that is to look at solutions. That's very much what Christiana just mentioned about opportunities. Look at the solutions on the ground, on mitigation and on adaptation. And the idea was that the more we can encourage action, the more ambitious agreement can be made, and the more ambitious agreements come out will result in even more action. So you end up in a virtuous circle of action, more agreement, and more action. Now, the idea was also, as a second point, is that it's best to look at partnerships, approaching the solutions through partnerships. And the reason was that the Secretary General had already a lot of experience with initiating partnerships on sustainable energy for all, zero hunger, every woman, every child. And these things were working well, and it was thought, let's apply this to climate change, but let's do it across the board, across the range of sustainable development issues. And that's exactly what was done. And it was done, and that's the third point, based on a study by UNEP on what are some of the key areas, the high impact areas where we need to undertake action. And it was called the UNEP Gap Report. And it resulted in selecting 8 areas in energy, efficiency, renewable energy, transport, forest, cities, short-lived climate pollutants, cities, and resilience. And that's what we did. And the results of the summit were quite phenomenal. I don't want to go into detail because we could talk a long time, but just raise 2 examples. One of them was the Forest Declaration. There were 130 parties that came together and made commitments to ensure that their actions will result in reducing forest loss by 50% by 2020 and to zero by 2030. That was quite a major achievement. And the second one I wanted to mention is private finance, where the Secretary General invited representatives of private finance institutions, and they made very serious commitments to shift literally hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment toward low-carbon, low-emission systems. What's interesting is we've looked at it now after a year, and those commitments are on track to be met, and that's fantastic. But what we've seen is not only that those companies have made commitments have met them, but there are other companies that have made commitments, and now there's a trend, and things are going in that direction. So that's, in terms of results, has been fantastic. And the final point I'd like to make is that as a result, what happened is that the action agenda, the whole action agenda is now a reality. As Minister Fabius just mentioned, it resulted in the first action COP in Lima. And now we have an action COP that is completely action-oriented. We've had now a whole week of days on different topics, and it will continue. And you can actually see this virtuous circle that I've started with of the fantastic results of the action agenda having an impact on the negotiations. And we hope that that will have even further impact on the action agenda after Paris. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to pick up with Minister Vidal on the point that Mr. Pasztor just made about this all really beginning in Lima Action Day. Just tell us how it began and why the role of it is so important.
Thank you. By action, you know, and let me stand up just to say to you that it means action. It is movement and it is change. And we used to have in the COPs, in the former COP, before the COP20 in Lima, different actors outside the walls of the venue. And in Lima, with France, with my friend, Minister Fabius, with the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, based on what the Secretary General had done in New York, we decided to organize something, an action day. Because for us, action is life. When we talk about climate change and its consequences, what we do need to have it is action, movement, change, will to trying to change what we are currently suffering. So that is why we decided to organize that action day in the middle of the COP20, and after that to launch this Lima-Paris action agenda. And how can we create more action? The only way it is by recognizing actors. It is not only governments or states or parties. There are a lot of action in the world. Business sector is moving action. The financial sector is putting money and financial tools to mobilize more action. The civil society has shown to us in that very, very huge march in September of 2014, more than 300,000, that there is action. And also indigenous peoples, by their traditional knowledge, by their culture, are moving the world. So we decided to put all together in the same table, and also as a way to assure that in the future, the COP should maintain this bringing all together to the same table. Because it is the only way to get what we are seeking, to reach our objective. And what are our objectives? To have a decarbonized economy, and also to have a resilient economy. But it is not only responsibility of the government, it is responsibility of everybody, of every citizen, of every organization. So by the action day, we are assuring that. And we have already gotten a lot of things. Not only because the LPAA, the Lima-Paris Action Agenda, or the non-state actor zone for climate action, this portal. But for example, because of this pledge of the Paris City to the GCF, or because the Paris Pact related to water and basin, with almost 300 people signing it. So there is action, and we should maintain this momentum. And let me finish requesting to all the plenary, and let me say one thing. We're in the plenary. We are in the place in which we used to have just governments, but now we have actors from different places that want to share their own experience. So also the format, it is important, because it's a good signal. It is a political signal that we will maintain in this. So this idea of we must, we can, we will, it is from here to the future, to give better quality of life to the people. So let me request to the plenary also to give a very big thank you by a big applause to France, to Minister Fabius, to Minister Royal, because this Action Day, it is a confirmation of their commitment with fighting against climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Fabius, we've just heard there about objectives, about action, about responsibility. Are you optimistic that this momentum will remain beyond just Action Day today?
Yes, I am. Je vais parler français, j'oubliais. Oui, je le suis. Pourquoi? En ce qui concerne l'action de la société, les choses sont lancées et comme l'ont dit mes camarades mousquetaires, l'action ne s'arrêtera plus. C'est-à-dire que je suis absolument persuadé que ce mouvement qui a été lancé va se poursuivre dans les années qui viennent et s'amplifier. Pour ce qui concerne cette COP21, il reste à réussir le tournant de l'accord universel. Et là, des dernières informations qui me sont données, je commence à être vraiment optimiste. Mais il reste beaucoup de travail. Alors, s'il fallait un mot qui est à la fois le mot de la fin en ce qui nous concerne et du début pour cette journée, ça va être la COP de l'action. Ça va être la COP de l'action. C'est clair, c'est net. Pas seulement les intentions générales, les principes, mais l'action, les décisions, reposant sur des femmes et des hommes à travers le monde qui sont vraiment motivés et qui ont compris que c'est un grand changement qui est en train de se produire. Et pour comprendre à quel point ce changement est nécessaire, eh bien, je crois qu'on a songé à demander à un point de vue, j'allais dire, extérieur de nous convaincre. Et ce point de vue qui est à la fois extérieur et intérieur sur la nécessité de lutter contre le dérèglement climatique et de protéger notre planète, il n'y avait pas de meilleure façon de l'exprimer que d'entrer en relation avec la Station spatiale internationale. Et ils vont nous expliquer pourquoi il faut vraiment lutter contre le changement climatique. Merci.
Thank you very much, Minister Fabius, and I'd like to thank...
Could I just add a few words, because I'm inspired by everything that I've heard from my colleagues here. And it strikes me that when we started this whole exercise, it was actually difficult to go out there into what we call the real world and find good examples of action on climate change. This time, our difficulty has been to choose among so many excellent initiatives, to be able to squeeze them into a whole week of action, and certainly today on Action Day. So we've certainly moved in our aspiration, in our ability, in our commitment. However, let me say, our goal here has to be to make even this Action Day, which is a fantastic milestone in our process, completely obsolete. Because we have to move from Action Day to Action World. It needs to become all of these initiatives that are so fantastic, that have been highlighted throughout the whole week, that will be highlighted today, need to become not initiatives that are highlighted, but they need to become the norm. And we need to do that very quickly. What we have been able to do in just 3, 4, 5 years is already remarkable, but it is nothing compared to the speed, the scale, and the depth of the transformation that we need to have over the next 5 years. So from Action Day to Action World.
through action COP.
Yay!
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank them for their optimistic and very inspirational words. Thank you all for your leadership and for launching this historic moment. Thank you very much.
Merci.